Hickory and apple smoked pork loin wrapped in thick applewood smoked bacon and stuffed with garlic cloves, garnished with delicious smoky pork gravy and chopped cilantro. That's what's for dinner. I cut this loin roast from a full pork loin that I was using in another video project that'll be coming soon. And that video project, incidentally, is making beef and pork sausage. Now, I have the loin here, and I'm not going to do any other prep than putting it into my usual brine, which is 5 cups of filtered water, 1 cup of vinegar, 1 cup of salt, 1 rounded tablespoon of curing salt number 1 or Prague powder. And this is added into a large pan or bowl and heated until everything is dissolved. You don't have to get it up to boiling. You just have to dissolve it. And that's added to 7 pounds of ice in a 5-gallon food-grade bucket. It's the perfect cool spring day for smoking this pork loin, so I'll be putting it in the cold smoker for 2.5 hours. And just like that, 2.5 hours have flown by. So I'm going to vacuum pack this loin for, you know why. So we can get that sweet, smoky penetration. Yes, smoke penetration is key. Okay. 3 days have passed and this roast is ready to be wrapped in a wonderful coat made of interlaced bacon. Now the best way to make this is to use bacon that isn't too thick and lay out strips on a cutting board as you see I'm doing here. And once you have them all laid out, then carefully take additional strips and interlace them perpendicular to the ones you laid out on the cutting board. And you'll have to flip them back and forth, and that's another reason you don't want them too thin, because they'll tend to fall apart when you're doing this. So once the bacon wrap has been made and wrapped around the roast, I'll place it into a nice ceramic roasting pan. Now that the roast is nestled nicely in our pan, we can go ahead and prepare some garlic cloves. I'm using an entire head of garlic, about 10 cloves, and stuffing them under the bacon in various areas. Now for pork loin, we want to avoid cutting any holes into the roast itself to stuff garlic, for example, because that could lead to loss of moisture. I will also be using 2 tablespoons of crushed or minced garlic, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and 1 tablespoon of rubbed sage. Incidentally, the sage I used here is from my own garden and is very fresh and pungent. And this we will spread across the top of the roast to give it additional flavor. Now you could also use some crushed pepper on this if you want. Certainly though, you don't need to add any salt because of the bacon and because of the soy sauce. There's plenty of salt in those for this dish. I opted just to put on what you see here. I preheated the oven to 500 degrees and placed the roast into it uncovered for about 20 minutes. I then covered the roast with its glass top and turned the oven down to about 350 degrees. This will ensure we have a nice crust on the roast that will help keep that moisture in. We need an internal temperature of the roast to reach about 145 to 150 degrees before we take it out of the oven. It's going to take about 45 minutes to an hour of total cooking time, depending on the size of your roast. Then prior to allowing this roast to rest, we will use a baster to suck out all of those wonderful juices to make our gravy. Then the roast will be covered with some aluminum foil and a towel to allow it to finish cooking in its own heat. Meanwhile, I'll use 1 packet of pork gravy mix, like McCormick or whoever, and a teaspoon of cornstarch mixed with that and about a half a cup of water. And then this will be slowly added to the juices as they are heated to a rolling boil, and that will produce a wonderful, smooth, thick, and delicious gravy. I'm going to chop a little cilantro to sprinkle on the roast, just as a little extra garnish. All right. Pink, this is from the smoke. You can see the smoke ring here. And you can see, a little bit hard to see, but you can see the pink smoke ring where the smoke is penetrated about a 3/4 to an inch deep into the roast, and then the rest is still untouched pork. And the combination is delicious. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Smokey Dave Presents and looking at this delicious roast. Now go out there and make one yourself. It's an inexpensive cut of meat, and it's delicious, and it'll feed a whole family.